Hello, my name is Dr. George Mochocki, and welcome to this series we're doing from a HR perspective, and we're on session 14, chapter 14, or workshop number 14, depending whether you're taking in an online class, at a face-to-face class, or a hybrid class at a college level, or in one of my workshops that I may have every now and then. Okay, so today we're going to talk about collective bargaining and labor relations. We're going to do some focusing. If you look at it, we're going to look at labor management cooperation, roles of union. And when I come to this from a perspective of a union, I used to work in the construction side, work for ComEd, those of you had other sections with me, and I was a member of the Electrical Brotherhood Union, or IBEW workers. I think they changed it, Brotherhood Sisters, but just to be politically correct. So I'm not giving anything else from one perspective. I've been from a union member, so I understand the rationale and the logic behind that. And then I also been on the management side. As an instructor at several colleges I teach, we are unionized, but we don't call us union. We are associates or associations, which doesn't make sense because a lot of people look at unions and they look at it as a manual labor, but they don't look at the or blue collar type, where you're looking at the white collar or more the executive type. So unions are expanding. They're not growing at the rate they used to grow. How large, by the numbers. And one of the reasons was as long as the companies are treating employees fairly, equitably, have a grievance procedure, have a good policy, there's no need to bring in a union. When the management perspective, because I'm looking at this from an HR or from a manager perspective, if a manager is not treating employees right, they're firing them for whatever cause or no cause at all, then you have disgruntled workers. You also have disgruntled customers because the workers aren't happy, they don't take care of the customers, and what happens then, it opens up the door for the unions. Now, for the other organization that unions are there, let me tell you one thing about the unions. It comes from the backside. Most individuals do not mind hiring a union member, but that union member, so I'm paying premium dollars, I expect premium work. What's going on? I'm a union member, I'm paying premium dollars, and some of the work ethics or some of the work that's coming out is not the same standard as I would expect for the money. So I may hire a non-union worker, let's say for an electrician or a plumber. I'm not going to be an electrician, that's where I'm at. So let's say a plumber. I work with some plumbing companies, and basically they'll hire a union plumber because they want the job done right. And so they figured I paid that high money, and then after they finish, a week later, it's leaking and everything else, and then the guy, well, it shouldn't be leaking, or the work to come 2 or 3 times. Then I hire a non-union individual to fix a union member for a half the cost or a third of the cost. And now I say, why should I hire that high price individual? Look, you pay for what you get. If I want quality, and because the non-unions also have to be accredited and certified by the state or by the local municipality. But if I'm paying high price, I expect quality work. Just my own note, my own things where I'm looking at some union members, when I do some consulting and talk to other individuals, what basically they say, hey, I get a union person and the quality isn't there. Non-union things just, or I don't see any difference between a union member and a non-union member. So that's, so you have two sides of the issue. I'm not taking any sides. I'm doing a course, and from an HR perspective, if I have union, when I worked for ComEd, I love the union. Not only that I came out from, makes my life easier. Here's the contract, you buy by contract. I don't have to go to appraisals or everything else for every individual. The contract states this, my union members will provide this service at this cost, and I don't have to worry till the next contract comes up. As long as I'm getting the value and my customers see that value. Not only the customers, me as an employer. Okay, so let's get into this. I'm going to go in here. You already have my concept maps. And let's see, you have my concept maps. I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger for those who look at it. With the conceptual maps, what I want you to do, remember you got the concept map, make sure you look at the concept maps. It's already supplied to me if you're in any of my paid for workshops or at the college where you're paying for the courses. All that material is supplied. The other ones, you can follow along. It's some kind of a learning, and there's a site at the end. We'll discuss about other issues. But let's talk about about labor management cooperation. Here's what, and if I look at unions, labor management, you look at the House and the Senate, for lack of better words, Republican-led now for the next couple of years, and you look at the President of the United States, how do they work together? Management, look at the President of the United States as management, and the union members as basically the labor. In Congress as the labor. How do they work? If you have them fighting, you spend too much energy, too much effort fighting each other and not coming up with a quality product. You're all stressed out about that. You should be able to work. Once we have some kind of mutual agreement, it's a give and take. Been on both sides. Been a bargaining union and been also the management union with negotiation. We all want the best for our constituencies. We want the best for our stockholders from a management perspective. I want the best from the union member. We have to find that common cause. We can't get everything we want. It's just not life. So we find where we improve our status, our quality of life. Our return on investment if it's for the management, but slowly. You don't jump over to, and you try to. The one thing you have to respect each other. They have a different agenda, but we got to find a common denominator, for lack of better words, and go forward. Employees involved in decision making. A lot of unions are part. I'm only as good as my workforce is. Self-managed work teams. So I have more people that are self-managed work teams. Labor management problems, solving it, and it's not only the top executive. I bring the chief stewards and everybody else, and we work on that broadly defined jobs. We have to, more and more jobs. From the union perspective, be very specific. I'm a carpenter, I only do carpeting. But you have to look, you got to have some flexibility. Do I do carpeting? What else could I do? And that's where the union has to evolve, just like management has to evolve, because our customers don't want 20 different people doing the same task. I can only do let's say I have a plumber. I can only put this in, and somebody else got to put this in. Could this other person do assist the two, or is there a common thing that we could both still do well, but make it seamless to our clientele that we're basically trying to take care of. Look, if we don't take care of our customers, we don't have customers, we're not out of a job. I don't care if it's a union job or non-union job, we're all unemployed. Company goes under, stockholder loses, employees loses. It's not a win-win situation. Lose, lose, lose. So share financial gains. Remember, the thing that upsets the unions, we try to cut back on the unions and say, hey, you can't do this because it costs you, and then you see management get 1,000 percentage higher than what the union member or a non-union member is making. You have to share the gains together. Management didn't get there. It got there on the backs of the labor force and vice versa. Management supplied me the tools, the things they did. They looked at the conceptual. They had all the research. They looked at the big picture, and they said, here's prepared me and prepared the union or non-union members to be able successful to compete against competition within the United States, the domestic market, or within the global market also. And sharing business information with employees. Both union and management should share together. I know you look at it's them against us. That them and us mentality. It may work in the short term, but in the long term, no one wins. And when no one wins, we're not making money, and our competitors or overseas competition comes in there and just eats us away, and we have nothing to satisfy. The manufacturing sector is coming back with technology. There's maybe not as many union members, but the union members that are coming in are at a higher skill set. They need to be able to read technological things, they need to be able to use the technology, computers, because it makes us more effective and proficient from both sides. But I got to supply the tool and share information to see how could we do this task better, so we don't have to outsource and we don't have foreign competitors coming and taking our work. So we are improving. Like it or not, people still like, I'm not talking about the dollar, the exchange rate. People still like American products because they're still quality products. They know maybe a higher cost, they don't mind paying for it, but they know that there's no asbestos or lead or whatever, where some of the other overseas companies, they throw it in to reduce their expensive, and there's not the check and balance. We have the ISO 9000 that we talked about in the previous things. That means we have a quality program that basically makes sure we have a quality sound product. And because of that quality sound product, people we're willing to pay a little bit higher cost because they don't have any issues with that. Our auto manufacturing is doing real well. That's because Toyota, whoever it was, had the thing with the ignition key. So by default, they say, hey, we don't trust them. We know here. Now we're having some issues, but you got to be straightforward. Hey, we messed up. GMS said we messed up, we screwed up, whatever you want to say. We apologize. Let's take the issues. Let's fix it and move forward. It costs us some money, but in the short term, we may lose, but in the long term, we got a customer say we trust that organization, because when they do make an error or do something wrong, they'll come up front to us. They don't try to hide it. They don't try to make us feel like it was our fault or tell us there's no issue. So that's how you work. And unions, you look at unions as part of the watch groups that makes me be ethical as a manager, makes me treat employees fairly. If I don't have a union in my company, I do that not to bring them in. I mean, it's okay. Once they're in, you do the relationship. It depends what the employees want. If they want a union, they have a union. But if I treat them fairly, then I don't have to worry about hiring consultants, everything else, how to keep the union out. If I'm good, why would I want to pay more if the company's giving me everything that the union is going to offer to me? It's a service I don't need. Okay? All right, so let's see. So labor management, roles of unions, U.S. workers. The union basically looks as a central bargaining agency for the individual. They help negotiate the pay. They look at benefits, flexible hours, working conditions, labor and numbers. By groups, we have more of a bigger impact than just one individual trying to convince management. They say, hey, this is our workforce. Let's work with them properly. Here's what I have. If my direct report, when I was in the corporate world, would do something wrong, and I'm not trying to skirt the issue, we messed up. Here's the contract I violated, or someone in my organization violated the contract, I'll pay the penalty. And same in reverse. Don't try to always nickel-dime me for one little thing that is a questionable device. It's not worth it. The paperwork, the time, and the mistrust, the communication, it starts breaking apart. It's him against us or her against him or vice versa. You got to work as a team. That's the only way we're going to be globally competitive. It's the only way we're going to be able to keep our domestic product. It's the only way we're going to improve our quality of life and bring in more manufacturing, bring in more people, and get everyone working. That's my 2 cents on that. And I really do mean that. It does work it. Okay, now union. Unions organized form, represent workers' interests in dealing with employers, because employers don't want to deal with the individuals. The reason unions got the big start is because management treated them like second-class, third-class citizens. We're equal. Not equal, yeah, to a point. We should be, talk about management takes more risk or whatever, but we're equal when it comes to satisfying the customer needs and treating everyone fairly. So labor relationship basically is a field that emphasizes skills manager and union leaders can use it to minimize costly forms of conflict. If we're fighting, just think of your family. You're fighting the two of you, so you're not getting anything done. You're all worried about the job. You're about the hours. How are we going to get even with them? What do they do? And everything I'm watching like a hawk. You don't need that, such as strikes and other things. You want to always foster a win-win situation. Okay, labor relation strategy. Should we work with the unions? It's a strategy. Develop a non-union operation or accept new kinds of labor management. These are different strategies that management may be looking at. Negotiating contracts, okay, decisions about pay structure, job security, some work rules that make sense, not both sides got to say, why do you want a longer lunch period? Well, because if I'm working in a job that's very stressful, my employees need a little bit longer to recoup, not only how they deal with customers, but also how they deal with themselves. Because they're stressed out, they start making accidents and everything else, and that ties in with work safety. If I'm making them work so much, given to them by, because my motion studies said you got to get this job done in a certain amount of time, and the only way I could do it if I violate all the safety rules, that's unethical. That's not a good management union relationship from a management perspective, because there's no way that individual could do that task unless he or she is taking shortcuts, and shortcuts involved in accidents involved in big payouts that the company has to do, plus bad publicity back to the individuals and the other workforce because they don't trust management anymore. International unions, and the craft unions, labor unions who members have particular skills. Industrial unions who members worked in a particular industry, and then you figure these two industries came together. American Federation of Labor and Congress of Industrial Organizations. 55 nations, international unions are affiliated. We work as a group, so what happens overseas has an input on us. Maybe some of our workforce goes there. What works there, maybe we could try to incorporate it here in the United States. What works in the United States, maybe we try to incorporate there. When I'm talking about labor management relationships, labor laws, economic policies, and occupational safety health. Okay, decline in union membership, change in structured economy. management efforts to control costs, and that's not only management. You study that in Wisconsin, because I'm in Illinois, Wisconsin, when you have, I think Governor Walker, I'm not sure, because I have no trouble worried about the governors we have in the state of Illinois, because we're going through several governors that have been indicted for some kind of corruption. We got one that we just had an election, but I think they were trying to do with an instructor. Now I'm an instructor. They try to get rid of tenure, and they did get rid of tenure. They try to look at some of the benefits and when you can strike, and that's basically because the taxes gets too high. You don't want to end up in the same situation as Detroit. And look, I want my pension, I want everything else, but I want it done fair, equitably. And unions have to say, hey, the environment changed. What I used to get before, and when the economy was booming, everything is good, is one way. The economy's not there. Management is just making a small profit margin. Just you can't ask for more than I could charge for the product, or the product's too expensive. People aren't buying it. I'm out of the job. I lay off. No one wins. Okay, U.S. membership to lower than many countries, and you look at many countries, you're having strikes, everything else. If you look at the socialist countries like France and everything else, but they're having big unemployment issues. They're having big things. Someone has to pay for it. It means the tax structure is higher. After a while, it's the burden of individual or the burden of my customers. Remember, unions and management have to find that common denominator, that equilibrium price we talk about in the capitalistic system, the supply and demand. And so if I look at supply and demand, here's what the customer wants. Unions are part of the supply chain, which is part of the management for the company, and what customers willing to buy. If they're not going to buy our product because they're expensive, they don't care about the quality, they're going to get products that's made overseas. And you can say, well, they're outsourcing all the job. Unless we put protective tariffs on all our goods, which does not make us very competitive, because they'll put protective tariffs, and it means the price of goods goes up higher and higher, and we're in a bind. Okay, real quickly. That was a big. That was pretty good. Whew, let me catch my breath here. I'll take a little drink. Okay, Pepsi Cola only. Goals of management. If I look at goals of management, so what's goals of management? Management goals increase organizational profit. Options with lower costs, improve higher output, emphasize on cost restraining, and keep organizational flexible. So when I look at these two right here, lower costs, improve output. If the union or my workforce is not producing, remember when we look at comparative work as a nation, but when I look at it from a business perspective, I do what I do best. If I can't be doing my product with my labor force. I'm not saying just all on the labor. Management has to give them the tools and technology for our labor force to be able to compete. But the union cannot always charge everything, because every time I'm training for an additional skill set, because that skill set, that employee that I'm providing to that employee, most companies will pay for it. Most organizations are paying for it. So that union member, if he works for my organization, for another organization, he or she has improved his own skill set so they could work someplace else. They've improved their knowledge of learning. Now, labor relationships, limited increase in wages and benefits. That's where we're at. I want more money, but I can't get all more money. So what can I get? Maybe I get a little flexible time. I get some other kind of benefits. Still, the way the government goes, they tax the heck out of me of everything, but it gives me something to compensate for my work. We talked previously about some little rewards, some kind of bonuses. Let's start sharing them. Remember, just the profits. If you don't have any profits, you have nothing to share. And don't come. I can't give you a raise. I'm not making money. I'm barely surviving. I'm breaking even. Okay. Goal of the unions: obtaining pay for their workers, obtaining fair working conditions, satisfied member wants. All right, just like with Congress and the President. President has a goal. Congress, they've been elected, and say my House representative to represent the constituents. I want to get along, but I have to look at the best interests of my constituents from a party or a different area. And the President of the United States has to look at the whole country, and they know they can't get everything they want. So maybe I could just tone it down a little, and I don't have to have the same the pay rates or everything else, and find that balance. And then next year, as the economy grows, as more people are coming back, then I can ask for more, because everyone has more to give, because our profitability, our output, more people buying our products, and we do a better job. Okay? Let's see, high on negotiation between contract provision, check off employees on behalf of the unions, automatically deduct union dues from the paychecks. I think the thing with Wisconsin union and the teachers was basically they don't have automatic deduction. The automatic deduction is not a a benefit for the management, because basically I'm collecting dues for someone else that's working. The union should collect their own dues. But if I was a union member, that means now I become the banker or the collector, for lack of better words, for members who don't pay their dues. I take away their card. I look at the bad guys. It's nice. Here's my paycheck. I pay, and that my union dues are automatically taken off. Most unions, and they're changing. It depends. There's still some are usually a flat fee. The other ones, the trade unions, are on a percentage. I have less members. How to get more finances coming into the union? I basically look at a percentage of the individual's net pay. Okay. So that's how it works. In security, membership security, you talk about a union membership contribution. Closed shop means to be a union member come in. The union shop, I could get hired, and then I have to join the union. An agency shop has both union and non-union members, but I pay what we call for the bargaining. I pay like a maintenance fee. You know, I don't have to be a union member because they are representing me for my benefits and everything else. They are the vocal point for all employees, but I don't necessarily say I don't want to be a union member. I don't want to pay this political action group. I don't believe in that cause, but I like the benefits I'm reaping. So remember, so the different ones and maintenance of membership. Okay, so that takes care of our unions. It's probably one of my shortest chapters. Okay, laws affecting labor relationship. You've got National Labor Relation Laws, Taft-Hartley Act, right to work laws. States make union shops, maintenance and membership, agency shops illegal. So I'm look at the state that you're at. Look at where at in Illinois we have right to work law. The other one is National Labor Relationship Board. They basically come in as a mediator. When we had a strike with teachers, I think in Waukegan just recently they settled, or other strikes and another, Caterpillar has strike. They try to come in there because look, if workers aren't working, everyone loses. Remember, when as a union member, if I go on strike, I had to do the picket lines. I had to do that. I don't get my full pay. The union may give me $20 a week or $50 a day, whatever, but it's not my wages. I have to basically stand on that picket line, and I don't get any medical benefits or anything else unless it's if I'm like electrical union or plumbers. My dues pay off since I'm medical, so I'd be all right there. But if I'm a union member with an organization, I'm on strike. When I'm agreeing, all benefits stop. So be careful of that. You hope the strike will end within a week or a couple days, but sometimes it may drag on, like Harper was dragging on for 3-6 months. People are really hurting. You can't collect unemployment because you had a job, you didn't want to go to work. The government says, hey, it was up to you. So the labor relations make sure that both management and union are playing fairly. They're like my in-between individual where the government comes in. Because when something's happening and it's disrupting, let's say if I'm in the trades, I'll use an example when I'm an electrician or when I'm a plumber and I'm building a house to sell. So I got carpenters, plumbers, electricians, pavers, architect, everything else. One is on strike. No one's going to put in that plumbing. I cannot sell that house. I got this whole big mansion. I can't even make any money till the labor dispute is settled. What happens? It hurts the whole economy because now all the other people I have to send home. I can't put the carpenter. I can't do anything else. So I get the electrical and there's no reason to put the drywall union to come in there. So you have to look at it. I understand unions will back other unions, maybe as a one-day sympathy strike, but otherwise the other unions going, hey, electrical plumbers, you're having union, you're having trouble with them. I'll do it one-day sympathy strike. But my members, we already settled with them. We have no issues with them with the plumbing issue. You resolve that. We're still going to put in the plumbing. And I don't want to be harsh, remember? Because when you're looking at strikes and everything else, there's families, there's people. Forget the company, big business, forget the organization. They basically are looking at, cutting their profits, everything else. That's why the strike does, production. But everyone suffers. When the teachers go on strike for a month or two, people don't graduate. They can't get scholarship if they're in the football program because there's no activity going on. They don't have grades to be submitted. I can't give you a grade if you haven't been in class for 2 months because we haven't taught. So we have to extend our classes that would end in the fall into the summer, and summer classes no longer could do it, where they do like makeup classes because I'm doing my regular work with the same teachers who teach the summer classes are my full-time instructors. So it affects other people other than the two organizations that are having a dispute in the negotiation. Think of that. That's why sometimes you have people get mad at the union and go, hey, wait, where do you want fair wages? I want my child to finish. I want my job. I want to go to school. You're messing up our side. Settle the agreements. Put your stuff down. Don't ask for everything. You can't get everything. I can't get everything. Work together. And that's what they're looking at. Why a lot of Republicans took over the House. Well, not a lot, but enough took over the House and the Senate. The main theme of organization is basically convince majority of workers that they need better pay, and they're going to be the vocal point. Well, see, look, if I get a raise 50 cents or $1, and my union dues are equivalent to that, I didn't make any money. I have to get, my union dues have to be proportionate. So I'm paying the union members a certain fee, but I got a raise. So for every $1, I may be paying my union 10 cents, but I'm getting 90 cents more than be have. I understand the company may offer 50 cents. I get 40 cents more. In reality, I get 30 cents more. But if I got the union fighting and everything else, and it comes out, I'm talking from the other side, remember? I'm not taking any sides. I'm an instructor. I'm a consultant trying to tell you both sides. I know the laws and all the rules. I'm trying to find a balance when you're looking at it. It's straight talk. When I'm looking at it, no one is basically winning. Okay? So if the unions has high rates and they don't give me enough raises, what's that going to say? And I can't get any more raises, lower my union dues. So I can see there's a proportional thing, just like we're upset with executives making more than everyone else, and I got the union members because of the dues I'm paying them, and I'm not getting the benefits. Well, look at the benefit. I didn't need a union for it. I'm in the same position with a union or without a union. It's like going for. You look at the union as representing me, and I go to law with a lawyer, and he or she charging me all this money, and I still have to pay out. I said, I don't need you. I break out even. Well, why even pay for you? I might have made it a little bit better. All I'm saying is, if you're watching me from a management perspective, or if you're a union executive still taking the relationship, because remember, you're still a business, you have an HR department because you're hiring people as stewards, you have an administrative, you have people working for you, you should still be able to look at both sides and because you're playing that role. Okay, signing authorization card, petition, when I look at signing authorization card, that's going back and forth. I think the administration now wants it real quick so I could get more unions in there because they figured that may put some pressure on management to hire more people. It doesn't really put that much pressure on management to hire. If the rates are too high, I just basically hire more members but at a lower rate. Not a lower rate, less time. So it's still offset. I only got $50. I get a union member, so I don't want you to do all the work. What do I get for $50? And I trim it down. So you have to be careful. Remember that the differential cost for the next raise. Use your head. The economy's down. I can't get everything else. The economy goes up. Ask for more. Okay? All right. At least 30% of employees in the work group sign an authorization card. Usually need 50% to proceed. Petition for election, and these, is changing a little bit, but it's still intact as it is now. After authorization has been signed, a petition for election is made to the National Labor Relationship Board. We talked about here. Election is held in 30 days. Election campaign, basically officers, assistants, associate union members conduct corporate campaigns, negotiate employee neutrality, card check provisions into the contract. That basically means that they take the money out of my paycheck and management. That's a good benefit for the union side. Companies are trying to hold off. Hey, you collect your own money. We're not the one keeping track which members pay or not pay. But that's part of the negotiation. Call or visit employees at home. Talk about issues like pay. When there was the election going on there, I was getting not only robocalls from both governors saying, hey, vote for me. This guy's a creep. This guy's this, whatever. After a while, I don't want to listen to anybody. That's why I voted early. Then I didn't have all that negativity. Once I get some negativity, it doesn't really help. It's not going to change me at that point at the end. This guy, because right after one guy says he's a crook or he's not going to do or he lied, the next ad says he did. After a while, I don't know who to believe. Who's got the better ads? So I'm just going to vote to my first issue who I'm going to vote for at the beginning. I would rather say, hey, I might have made a mistake, but I'm changing. Here's what I'm looking at. And don't give all the negativity. Because after a while, you figure, hey, is they giving me negativity to just to get my vote, just to convince me, work on my emotions. And then after the unions end for the management, they're my bargaining union. Don't work like a chip on the shoulder. We had the governor elections here, and the previous governor, the current governor didn't win. The other governor, he was delaying to say his concession speech. There's no way in heck he could have won. And so that looks like a bad sportsmanship. And I'm not looking at one or the other. It's the same with the union. The union came in, the management's having to say anything about it. Say, hey, we welcome our union members. President Obama, when he had the Republican House, he came up and says, hey, it's a message the people sent to me. He's the manager. I accept the message, and let's see if I can work together now. I may not like it, but there are the bargaining union. This is my employees spoke, my constituents spoke, and here's what and I'll take that, and I'll have to make some adjustment. I don't have to have a major adjustment, both sides major adjustment. Let's start finding a common ground, and then maybe we could work together. And hopefully we should work together, because if you see management fighting, the union workers aren't trusting management, don't trust anybody, and that's a disservice to not only to all our stakeholders, not stockholders, stakeholders, everyone who touches the organization. Okay, certification, the National Labor Relationship election on a set day. The board will issue a certification of results to the participants. Majority of the employees vote for the union, and RB will certify. Process does not require either party to make concessions, but it's kind of nice to say, yeah, I walk into the union, let's see what we could do. It only complies them to bargaining in good faith. Now, if you don't like a union, a lot of times unions are coming into because management is treating them wrong. Sometimes unions treat their employees or their members wrong. You could, the same process in reverse, could eliminate the union and bring them back in just without a union, or bring another union in. Because remember, union, just because you got in there doesn't mean that you're untouchable. Okay? Now, let's see, collective bargaining. What's collective bargaining from a union? Is negotiates on behalf of all its members, recognition, management rights, union security, compensation and benefits, grievance procedure. Remember, we mentioned before when we talk about grievance procedures and benefits, I don't have to have a union to have a formalized grievance procedure. You should have a formalized grievance procedure. It's because, you got a large company, someone's not going to do well. You have individuals got different mindset, different values, different cultural, different beliefs. Some are stricter, some are out. Some may be after somebody. I should have a process, whether I'm union or not, have a grievance procedure that goes in different steps, different levels, to maintain my employees, to be fair and equitable, and not have some wild card manager just overdoing everything else that the company's trying to do, and bring them in line by being over aggressive or over disciplinary, for lack of better words, because they have no way to recourse a decision. You should have a process that works out. Trust me, when you look at, and we'll go into later on the breakdown, and employee security. Okay. Now, bargaining over new contracts, distributive, divides an economic pie between two sides. There's only so much pieces in a pie. Only make so much money, so much profit. What do you want me to do? Okay, I'm laying off some individuals here, some managers, some organizations, and I think it was Southwest, I forgot what it was. They basically, the top management took a 50% cut. Our previous governor, when there was some negotiation with the pension, they weren't working, he also, I thought that was very fair of the individual. Governor Quinn at that, still our governor yet, but he basically took a pay cut to say, hey, I don't think it's fair. I'm going to take a 50% since that's the reduction we had to do. Okay? And then you got integrative bargaining, and it looks for win-win solutions or outcomes in which both sides benefit. Editorial, focused on establishing relationship and trust. The bargaining should not be where you're fighting. Because remember, if you get in a fight, a heated discussion, calling each other's names, look at your family or your close members that you have or your friends, you get in a fight, it takes a long time for you're my buddy, man. You call me all those names. You call me that. Now we're my buddies. Or you're my friend. I still love you. What do you mean I love you? Get away from me. You know what I mean? I'm not saying love. Maybe bad wording, but respect and mutual understanding and sharing the pie together. We're working together. And then intra-organizational bargaining basically addresses conflicts within the union or management group's objectives, and collective bargaining involves any combinations of the alternatives. All right? So now, when bargaining breaks down, strike. Strike basically is not a collective decision by union members not to work until certain demands are met or conditions are met. Doesn't hurt anyone. I'm not going to do no work. It's like if me and my wife go on an argument and she strikes, I'm not going to do the dishes. Someone's got to pick up the work. Who's going to pick up that work? Alternatives to strikes are basically, let's look at this, mediation. A mediator is like a marriage counselor. He or she does not force anyone, but they bring people together. And then, because we're fighting. We don't trust each other. We don't talk. Every word I say is it's like, what's she mean in a meeting? A mediator, he comes in or she comes in there. It's the mediator both agrees, like a marriage counselor, and he'll talk to the individual with this one, see what the issues are. He'll talk with this one, then he bring both parties together, and they're the person who talk to him, or her, and they basically could find that common thread that we always had. You don't need a mediator, but we're fighting so much we don't want to see the common thread anymore. And they look at the common threads because they're not involved in the argument. They come outside and they'll see why people. A lot of times there's an argument over little stuff. I'm just saying some stuff are large. Please don't take it out of context in this recording. It just depends on the issue. Some of the issues that some are fighting is trivial. What's the big deal? Got this paper, that paper. Some big issues like health care or pay, and if my workers are barely making it, that is a big issue. And the management is making the profitability, they should look at it. If the management is barely struggling, barely making it, and you want more pay, where am I going to get it from? I can't even my managers aren't getting to pay either. So let's look at it. That's why from accounting, we share data. We share, here's my reports, here's my profitability statement, here's my income statement, my cash flow, here's what I'm paying out. So everyone knows that, oh yeah, man, you are really broke. Remember, if the ship is sinking, and because it could be management doing something wrong, and you say, I told you not to do that, that hole, the water's coming, we're still both going down. Let's plug the hole when it brings back up, and then negotiate and argue later. But let's get this thing going off track because the situation is dire right now. Okay. Fact finder, third party collect data, reports reason for disputes. The media may do that. Arguments of both sides, possibly a recommendation of settlement, which parties still may decline. And conflict resolution procedures, an arbitrator, or arbitration board. When I go to arbitrator, from a union perspective, from a collective bargaining perspective, an arbitrator is like a judge. If it goes to arbitration, if the judge rules in favor of the union, then that's what management says. Hey, the arbitrator rules in the favor of the management, then the union has to find suit. If we rule, whatever that's the rule. Let's say the judge rules in favor of the collective bargaining. I can't change that rule. I could buy that rule or limit. I could go to the union and say, hey, look, I understand that we lost. Will I pay the current members $2 more an hour to get rid of that clause because it's hurting the company's operation? And the union has to be, no, I'm not going to give it up. Hey, if I can't be competitive, eventually I'll be laying off individuals. So let's see, does it make sense? My members still make it up $2 more. Hey, how much is that clause worth now that I lost? Is a settlement before to eliminate, but still find another solution so we don't get into that same kind of a conflict as we had before. Okay, contract administration overview. When I look at contract, includes carrying out the terms of the agreement, resolving conflicts over interpretation or violation of an agreement. What's the rule say? That's what arbitrator. He's not going to say what she said. They look at past practice, what management did. But if he or she said, they're looking at what the contract says. No different if you have a contractual agreement with your mortgage company or with a supplier or a worker or someone or someone that's doing some kind of task and they violate it. I take them to court and all the judges are going, this is what it says. You didn't specify that he or she has to do this, or management or union. Hey, you wrote in the contract, you signed off. You have to abide by the contractual agreement. I don't care the side tones, what you thought. This is what's written. So that's why the context is very important. What does the word say? That's why sometimes the words I look at it, they put it in plain English. Plain English to me is completely different than what a lawyer considers plain English. Because a lawyer's looking at words, because in the U.S., a lot of words have different meanings. You want to be very specific. If the word is a questionable word that has several different meanings or views of point, then I should, in the contract, say examples. I'm talking about this and not that. And that could be put in. So the contract's a little bit larger, but at least everyone knows. Procedure for resolving union management conflict. Remember, you should have a procedure, especially for your management. What's the next level? How do I have a rebuttal in case something isn't working? And usually over interpretation of the contract. We settled, but the wording or what I thought wasn't the same. Once we settle it, put that part of the settlement into the contract so if it comes on next time, we know how we rule. That's what happens when the court rules and you say, no, I agreed on this, but the last case that came up here, the judge ruled in this favor and he used this rationale. That's why when they do their I don't know if it's called minutes, I'm sorry, I forgot what it was, when they did their conclusion, all of the judicial judges, if it's like the Supreme Court, don't all agree, but the majority ruled. So someone makes a statement, here's the rationale and the logic why, and here's the rationale of those who did not agree. So you can see which one overcame why. Okay? And the last one we have is steps in a procedure, And the steps basically come in one verbal, real easy. You and me talk it to the steward. Maybe it's just a miscommunication with the supervisor. I'm sorry, I didn't know. No reason to make a big issue. I didn't know that I violated a contract. Sometimes I try to do that when I get pulled over. Not that I get pulled over a lot, but I might have not known the law. I didn't see, I thought I stopped. I said only when pedestrian's not there or whatever, no turning red. I didn't look at it. Sometimes the officer may give me a break. Sometimes I go to the court and I said, the law says this, and the judge could say, boom, you're wrong, you violated it. But the judge said, you know what, Mr. Mochocki, you're a pretty good driver, and I could see you didn't look at, did you learn a lesson? You already took time off, you paid a court fee, and everything else, and we'll dismiss it so it's not on your record, but it's taken care of. It's a verbal. Nothing on there. We just came, we settled it. It's like nothing happened, but it's a verbal, and decided if the contract was violated. After the verbal, let's say that we can't settle it verbally. Then we do a written grievance. Now the procedure starts. Now it's the next step. Now, if I look at usually, let me say, you got to be very specific, very detailed. What was the violation? Management has to respond to that. What was your recommendation? Why they're wrong, right? It's like providing a brief to the court before it goes on, so they see where both sides are coming, and the mediator or the judge is looking, and not mediator, I mean arbitrator. Mediator is a marriage counselor. He or she is not binding, it's just bringing two people together. An arbitrator, when they rule, it's a binding, just like a judge would. If you look at civil, this is business law, a contract which still has the same thing. You go to jail, or a violation of payment. It's just one is looking at commercial aspects of the law, for lack of better words, versus civil aspects of the law. And companies could fall into both. It could be violated civil rights individual, which is a civil, but also has some other thing with a contractual agreement within their workforce. Okay, unions appeal grievances, goes to top management, local or international unions. Top decision of appeal is put in writing. Now, if you're firing an individual, whether it's union or not, and you're dealing, it's going up to the scale or something else. I'm just looking at that. That's a drastic termination of an employee. His whole life or her whole life could be in ruins. They're being terminated, and the cause could be because I'm implementing too harsh of a judgment. That's where HR perspective comes in. Superintendent Mochocki, I think you're 5 days for this offense. It's a little bit extreme. You should only have 1 day. It's basically what the norm. It sends a message. 5 days is too much. We're going to lose it. It brings bad publicity. It's not good. So I said, well, I didn't even think about that. But you should look at that. So because it upsets individuals. Make sure that you're doing it properly on both sides. So if I'm looking at this, from top management, put it in writing. The other thing I'm saying, once it's in writing, the process is going, make sure your terminology is detailed. Don't I violated this, explain the rationale in case, because this is going up the ladder. It hasn't hit the mediator yet. He or she's looking at that. It hasn't hit to the arbitrator yet. But let's see if we could resolve it. And because remember, it goes to the next level. The better detailed, the more specific it is. The next management, they may talk to the individuals, but they understand the rules. Because the higher up I'm looking strictly by contractual disagreement, or I'm violating the contractual rules of agreement that's written. When you take business law, or if I have lawyers, and there are lawyers on both sides for the company to make sure I haven't violated anything civil or what I call from a business or commercial requirements of law, and vice versa. Okay. Now the union decides to appeal to arbitration. Appealing are binding. So the more an arbitrator is like a judge that finally reaches the Supreme Court. They're looking at all the briefs that was submitted to the lower courts, went to the Supreme Court, for lack of better words. I'm a business major, I should know. Of the High Court of the state, and then it goes to the Supreme Court. Or it's such an issue that other states are having an issue. The Supreme Court says, you know what, you can go through all this. It's going to delay everything else. It's going to muddy the water. Everyone's doing whatever. We'll take the case on now because it's something issue. I can see it's going to be a national issue that we should resolve and put it to rest right now. Okay? So when I look at that, that is the grievance procedure, an overview from both managerial perspective or from the union perspective, that we should always be, the biggest thing that I want to bring out of here is that we are looking at this from a perspective of negotiation, find that common ground. Remember, we all want what we want. both management and union. You can't get everything. There's only so much of the pie. There's almost so much they could do. If there's more pie, I want, bigger, a double layer pie is a lot different than a single layer pie. There's more to give. They don't have it. Remember, union contracts come every 3 years. I may not get it now, but I've got a good negotiation. And I say, okay, we won't do anything now. The company may say, look, I can't do this now. If the economy improves, or if your production improves next year, I'll just do retroactive and pay you. I don't have the money now. But if next year it doesn't come, don't go after me. Where's the money? You promised me. Well, you haven't improved, and the economy hasn't improved, so you should have that worst case scenario and hope for the best case scenario. Again, my name is Dr. George Mochocki. This is session 14, collective bargaining and labor relationship. And if you look at our House of Representatives and our Senate, and working with the President, House of Representatives and Senate, new members coming in, and the President of the United States and his administration, we should find that common cause. And look, we can't get everything we want. Let's what's best for our constituents. They're also my employees, but they're also taxpayers, and they're also individuals, family members, and we all want to work together so it improves our quality of life, it improves our standard of living, and it also brings more jobs, improves the economy, so we have more to spend, we have a better life, we have a better outlook and a future going forward, because everyone's getting along. My name is Dr. George Mochocki, and thank you for taking this session with me on collective bargaining labor relationship from a HR perspective.